Hello, I'm Nathan Blaine. This is my 4runner behind us, and I thought I would make a video for you guys on everything that's on it. Alright, so when I started this build, I really was actually against the whole overland thing. I mean, that word still kind of makes me cringe. I'm not really about overlanding necessarily. Hence the YouTube name Extraland. I think a lot of the stuff people put on their rigs, it's pretty over the top and extra. Obviously, as you can see behind me, I do have a rooftop tent and a few other things like that. I did carry a fridge for a while. I'll probably throw that back in my 4runner at some point. But when it comes down to it, I would not consider myself an overlander. I've actually built this 4runner for mostly kind of, not really rock crawling, but it does see rocks fairly frequent. So it's more of a wheeling build rather than a camping overland build. So that was kind of the premise of why I built this thing, and everything you see on here, except for the rooftop tent, is so I can wheel better. But yeah, pretty much I went with a Autohome airtop, not because it's the most amazing tent in the world or anything like that. I went with that tent because I got a really good deal on it. You will be seeing a review of that tent in the future, but yeah, I mean, I've had 4 rooftop tents now, and for each rooftop tent I've had, I've seen a flaw or a gimmick in the tent that leads me to believe that rooftop tents are really not the best option for comfort. If you want a comfortable camping rig, me personally, I would go with a van. Something like a 4runner or a Jeep or something like that. It's gonna do great off-road, especially if you have good suspension, stuff like that. It's gonna be super smooth. But for some reason, I don't know, rooftop tents, I haven't been a fan. So I'm gonna give you an honest review of this Autohome airtop behind me in the near future. So I know the title says I'm doing a rig walk around, a build breakdown, whatever. But I do want to go over why I picked a 4th generation 4runner. So, you got Jeep Wranglers, you have 5th gen 4runners, 3rd gen 4runners, Lexus GX 470s, all sorts of stuff. People are just going crazy over those vehicles. But the 4th gen 4runner, when I bought it, they were really not popular. Nobody really liked them. Me personally, I love them. They come with the V8, a great V8. It's the 2UZ non-VVTi, great engine. But, they were not that expensive when I bought it. For me to go out and buy a Wrangler with the same amount of miles I had, 83,000 miles, it would have cost me, I don't know, $20,000, $22,000 just for the vehicle. I spent half that. I spent $11,000 for a 4runner with 83,000 miles with the V8 bone stock, and I thought that was amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much why I bought the 4runner. It's not because I was, crazy against Jeeps or anything like that. It was the simple fact that, I wanted a V8, which Jeeps don't have from the factory, Jeep Wranglers. I wanted reliability, and I wanted price. That's hard to find, at least in a Jeep. So pretty much it was Toyota all the way. It does suck that I don't have a solid front axle because, I have been, on John Bull Trail, for instance, in Big Bear, and, my front end would just not stop lifting, and, I've got an open diff in the front for a very specific reason. These come all-wheel drive, and if you have a locked diff in front with independent front suspension, you're really prone to breaking those CV joints. And that's not good if you can't switch it to 2-wheel drive. So that's just something to think about there. But yeah, getting off topic now. Yeah, pretty much Toyota was the move. I forgot to add, my dad has a 2015 Jeep Wrangler with, I think it has 76,000 miles now. That thing's broken. That thing's been broken and keeps breaking. And this thing, 10 years older with more miles, it's at 114,000 right now. So more miles, way older, gets wheeled way more, funny enough. And really nothing's caused that much of an issue for me as far as braking. My dad's Jeep, the transmission's broken, the diff's making funny noises, the radiator broke, what else? I don't know, just like a handful of stuff, but the 4Runner, you know, knock on wood, has done really well. All right, let's talk about the vehicle. So it's a 2005 Toyota 4Runner V8 SR5 4-wheel drive. Obviously, I've done a lot of stuff to it, but when I bought it off of grandma for $11,000 with 83,000 miles. Yeah, pretty much it was in great condition. I actually had to ask the previous owner, you know, did they clean the engine bay because it was so dang clean. And their answer was no. Pretty much she drove it, you know, 8 miles a day for, you know, the time span that she had it, which was pretty much since brand new. She was second owner and bought it at 8,000 miles. So got really lucky with the purchase of this vehicle. I'm glad because I'm pretty sure someone else would have just flipped it for more cash. But when you look at it, you know, I can go over the suspension first. So pretty much we have everything bolt-on. That was my goal, is keeping this thing bolt-on for reliability reasons and so forth. But we have Total Chaos upper control arms, King 2.5 extended travel shocks. I had the truck shop in San Diego gusset and reinforce my spindles. OEM axles all the way. They're expensive, but they last. And then in the rear, let's go over here. Same thing, extended travel King piggybacks. And then we have Dobinson springs. These are the second to heaviest they carry. I think they're the C59 749s, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, that's pretty much my suspension. Super simple, super reliable, super bolt-on. All right, let's talk wheels and tires now. So we have Stealth Custom F5s in 17 by 8.5, -10. Super good specs to fit 35s. I guess these are 34.4s. The tires are BFG Can 3s in 315, 70, 17. And I don't know, I might go up to true 35s at some point, but in all honesty, the fit is just perfect on these tires. You know, they just barely stick out from the fenders. When I'm fully stuffed, they just tuck right under. And pretty much to fit these, you know, they do require some trimming. You know, all this is kind of trimmed out, but it's really not that terrible of a process. Yeah, you just got to cut a lot and hammer a lot, but yeah, you can do it pretty clean. By the way, a quick tip: if you have a 4th gen 4Runner or a GX470 or any vehicle that runs, you know, all-time 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, I definitely suggest you take out your front sway bar and just run a heavier spring in front. Multiple times with my 4Runner, I've found myself on a trail and I hear like a clunk, and then, you know, my sway bar end link is broken. And pretty much what that does is the sway bar end link then kind of like goes into the CV boot and just destroys your boot. That's happened to me. I think I let it happen twice before I was like, okay, I'm taking this thing out. But yeah, it happened literally like twice in 2 months. And I was like, oh my God. So pretty much I just took that out and it's been good ever since. No real CV problems, other than destroying a CV on the John Bull Trail. Okay, it's time to talk armor. So I'm running a Relentless Fab Predator bumper with a Smitty built X2O 10K winch. I have a Factor 55 Pro Link here, and pretty much the reason why I went Pro Link is just for that closed system winching. It's just so much safer, and pretty much all you need is a D-shackle and you're good to go. And then let's see, I'm running ARB skid plates. I was gonna go RCI skid plates, but was talked out of them by a shop, which I really regret. I should have just gone straight to the RCIs. Pretty much every single time I smash these on a rock, a bolt comes loose, or whatever. A few times I've had to straighten them out just because they're 3-inch thick steel, but 3 inches is just not enough, I guess. So really unfortunate, but I'll be upgrading to RCIs here whenever I get some money. And then let's walk around here. So I am running RSG Metalworks sliders. As you can see, I definitely use them. There's just scrapes and whatever all over them. These things are super, super stout. They come bolt-on, but I personally just welded them to the frame just for a little more rigidity. And no regrets there. And then walking around back, this is a 4x4 Labs high clearance bumper. So this bumper is awesome. I had the option of going with CBI, Coastal Fab, or 4x4 Labs. Me personally, I love the look of the 4x4 Labs bumper. Not only that, it's just way lighter than the other options. You do have to cut a piece of your cross member out to fit it, just because it's a really high clearance bumper, but the look is just priceless. I mean, look at that. So other things I've added to this is a Safari Snorkel that is specific for the 4runner, which is pretty much, most people add them just because they look cool. Me personally, I've found myself in situations where I've had water up to the headlights, and it just really made me feel uncomfortable for, crossing water and so on and so forth. So, me personally, I went with a snorkel for, those reasons. Obviously, it'll keep dust out of there, but in all honesty, the snorkel up here, it does catch a lot of bugs. I'll look at my air filter and I'll see like bees and all sorts of stuff inside there. So, I mean, for the most part, just for water. Not because I'm gonna find myself in those situations often, but when I'm in those situations, I definitely want to have it. So the Prinsu rack with the auto home on top. So this setup right here, the Prinsus between the rack, don't mind the missing bolt there, but the rack is pretty much, you got the side piece and then the crossbar, and there's a little gap between here and the crossbar, which means if you have a rooftop tent, it's gonna sit on these side pieces unless you come up with a custom solution. So what I did is I have 3 crossbars that I had cut by a company called 8020 Solutions in Poway, California. And let me see if I can get a look in there. It's kind of hard to see, but here we go. So you'll see I have 2 crossbars just kind of stacked on top of each other there. And pretty much that allows me to raise the tent. I don't even know, not even much. It's like ½ an inch. But yeah, as you can see, there's some bumps and bruises on this tent. I got it used, but I couldn't refuse that deal. So we'll see how this tent does. So as far as tents go, I've had, as I said, 4 rooftop tents now. So from the first to the last, I've had an alu cab, I've had a CVT hard shell, which was just crap. It was like Chinese made, and it came from CVT with a rip in it. But apparently they're doing a lot, higher quality stuff now. But me personally, that kind of just left me with a bad taste in my mouth for that company. But next I had a James Baroud. That thing was awesome. I loved the James Baroud. The only issue I really had with that tent was the gel coat was cracking on it after only like a half year of owning it. Not only that, but the fan was really cool, but it was kind of loud. Not only that, but with really heavy rains, a little bit of water does kind of seep in. It's not a big deal because, you know, you just lift the tent up and let it dry. You know, it's not like a huge lake is inside there, but it was just enough for me to be like, let's move on. So now I got the Auto Home. I picked Auto Home because it's very similar to the James Baroud. The James Baroud was my favorite tent I've ever had, but it does not have a fan on top. The only issue with the air top is this one does not have locking struts. And I find myself in Joshua Tree a lot where it tends to have really high winds, and I feel like it's gonna rock around a lot. So I'm talking to Auto Home right now, and I'm hoping to get an answer back, but I wanna get some of the locking struts seen on the newer tents. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, if you want me to do a comparison of all the tents that I've owned, definitely, you know, let me know in the comments. All right, so funny enough, I'm pretty much fully packed for a camping trip right now. So I thought I'd go over that for you. Minus, you know, the climbing gear, but, you know, I've got, you know, 2 boxes. They're just, I think they're Stanley brand. Really, really simple setup. And pretty much in this one, I've got cooking gear, yeah, instant coffee, pretty much all the essentials for that. I've got a 7-gallon water tank can thing. Super simple. You can buy it at REI for, I think it's like maybe 20 bucks. Let's see. In the other box, I have recovery gear, a little more food, a jet boil, some paper towels. Always carry toilet paper, very important. I've got my tool set right there. It's just an 80-piece Schwab tool set. And then for the interior, it's super simple. I've got a RAM mount for my phone. I've got a Carhartt dash cover just to protect the dash. I've got my obligatory overland, extra land patches. Yeah, I've got a Patagonia duffel there. I got it for super cheap, got it for like 60 bucks on sale. But I just carry all my clothes in there. Got my Nemo tent if I want to sleep on the ground. Some simple pillows, my sleeping bag, little cooler. But yeah, pretty much I try to minimize using a cooler. Having the fridge was nice, but you know, just paying for ice and having to deal with that was kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, pretty much just trying to stay away from that. I forgot to add, because I'm running 35s, I am running 488 gears, which work really well with the 5-speed seen in the V8s. If you're running the V6 4th Gen 4runners, I think you want to run 456s, but don't quote me. But yeah, as I was saying, I do run a rear locker, and I very intentionally do not run a front locker for the simple fact that the V8 4th Gen 4runners, they come with all-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. There is no 2-wheel drive to cut off the front wheels. And pretty much if you break a CV joint, you're kind of out of luck. You know, you're gonna have to get towed out, which, you know, I didn't want to deal with personally. I do have a bunch of buddies who do run front lockers with their V8 4runners, but, you know, it was just something I didn't want to have to worry about. So, yeah, pretty much, but in the future mods, I do need to get a dual ARB compressor in order to run my rear ARB locker. What else? I need either a dual battery setup or like a Jackery just to run my fridge. I was running that PLB 40 battery, but it just, you know, I wanted something that lasted longer than 2 days, you know, especially when I was, you know, in 100-degree heat. I noticed that battery pack only lasted about a day and a half, maybe even less. Just because, you know, you're running a fridge. When it's inside of a car with closed windows in 100-degree weather, you know, the inside of your car's gotta be at least 200 degrees. It's an oven in there. So that fridge is just kicked on to full gear like 100% of the time. So it's not the battery's fault, it's just, that's a lot of work for the battery. But yeah, those are the two things I'm gonna add. I do need to get some rear links for the 3-link, just because I'm running stock right now, and if I slam one of those on a rock, it's just gonna bend on me. So I'm looking at either Metal Tech, maybe Califab. Califab makes some really cool ones. They also make a cool 3-link, but it's a little out of my price range. But yeah, those are the two brands I'm looking at. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna add in the future. Add the RCI skid plates. You know, there I go. You know, once you start a build like this, there's always so much stuff that you think about. But that's pretty much it. Those 3 things. But yeah, if you like this video, you know, let me know, and I'll try to make more videos for you guys. But if I missed anything that you want to check out, just let me know in the comments. You know, I'll try to make another video more in depth. If you want to see more on the rooftop tent, you know, how I set up the rooftop tent with the Prinzu, anything really, let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching.